Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to Elliott Wave Cafe. I'm Chris. Let's take a look at the markets once again. This is, the market report here. I'm trying to just get information and tell you what I think about the markets here regarding the equities and crypto. We have started to accumulate quite a few distribution days here on the equity markets, and this is slightly concerning. I've been fairly positive on the market, and I continue to be. But we seem to be getting slight cracks here underneath the surface, and this is just by the way the market has been acting here for the past 4 or 5 days. And I'll show you a couple of things here regarding the dollar, and also something regarding consumer discretionary things that are starting to hint that this is has the potential of a little bit of a setback. But I take this basically a day at a time, and I take evidence as it comes. I put on Twitter earlier today that I have been reducing my long exposure fairly significantly in here, and I'm just waiting for the market to kind of sort itself out here and give me the next clues. I can be back long 100% and on margin really quickly, so I don't have the some of the blockings that the big hedge funds and the big firms have, right? We're just kind of small potatoes here, small investors, traders, so we can kind of get in and out as quickly and as easily as we want. But I have been reducing, and I wanted to take a little bit more of a defensive positioning for a little while. Now, I kept saying along my videos, kind of how I'm going to do that and what I'm looking for, right? So first of all is the price and is the action. And this is one of those instances here, the way the market behaves and the way we're pulling back, and the way kind of some of the stocks are acting is telling me, that I have to listen. Now, we're still trending, right? And we're above the 20-day moving average, and we're above the 50. So the market, it's still in a nice uptrend. So this is just the first, little sign here that I'm noticing. Now, the more that we're going to come down, if we do, the stronger that call will become. But first of all, we have to test that 20-day moving average, which is right here. I'm not going to talk about the wave counts today. I've done those, yesterday and in prior sessions, so I don't want to go and repeat those, although you will see in there that we are approaching almost something that looks like a third wave top with the fifth wave probably in progress there. So not something that I'm again super convinced about in terms of the wave count. That's why I'm watching the price and kind of see what it does. So I want to see it break, like for example, not yesterday, but the day before yesterday. I think that was on Friday. That low. If we do get below this one, right, then we start to think a bit more. Then probably the 20-day moving average will come under attack. And if that happens and you close below it, then there's a bit of a gap between this and the 50, and this could become kind of the next target. But it's still very, very early. I'm just stating just a few concerns here. So this is basically the cues. Taking a look at the SPY, this is on a similar story. You can see how we have 4 red candles. Mind you, yesterday, we closed kind of toward the top, but it was still fairly weak. And today we're coming lower on a bit higher volume. So, and we also, if you look closely, right, we took the low from Friday on the S&P, and I think that's a bit, that's an important development. Now we have the highs back here from September 23rd, 24th, before we pulled back, and these are offering support. And the moment we close below this high, I think, we can get even lower, right towards that 20-day moving average. IWM was hit even stronger, and this one, again, did not really had a lot of push on top of those September 23rd highs. and instead just kind of stuck its head up and then came back. Again, still in an uptrend, it looks fine, and I can show you these, kind of on a longer time frame here, and you'll see that the trend is still fairly beautiful, but we are getting some cracks here. So that's kind of what I'm watching. I mean, look, you're looking at the S&P, and we'll touch on, I promise, Bitcoin and Ethereum as in every video here in a little while. So on the S&P, this continues to look, fairly nice. And when you pull back, right, and you're not looking, straight at right at every single day here, kind of how the price action acts, looking at this is like fine. It's an uptrend, some black candles, some white candles, none of this really matters. It's still just kind of trending nicely upwards, and that's what I wanted. I don't want to lose sight of that. This is kind of what keeps me still bullish and still kind of focus on the market. But the action here, it's a bit concerning. So then you look at the NDX, right, and it's in the same story. It's the first wave that's a bit shorter for right now, that tends to to kind of have a bit more selling in there. And then Dow Jones, it's still fairly steady in here and looking decent, not a problem. IWM, like I said, SOX, which had such a high spread above the 20-day moving average, is starting to come back. You notice some weakness in some of the semiconductors. Nvidia starting to kind of pull back a bit in here, but it's fine. I mean, until you're hitting 50 RSI, you're still in a decent uptrend, and there could be opportunities that were coming down. But I think we're just a little bit, stretched. So I'll get back to Bitcoin here in a second. Quickly, let's take a look at. So this is again another concern that I have. It's the fact that the dollar had stopped going down, and it created, this, fairly nice double bottom. I mean, it sold, I think, below this low just briefly, right there, and then it turned, which is interesting. And then we got back above that 50-day, above the 20-day. We're still on a downtrend here versus the 20-day moving average, but we're creating some kind of an inverted move in here. And if we crack above this, there is a decent chance that we can start to rally. Now, if that happens, that's going to put further pressure on, could be on cryptos and on equities and on the risk assets overall. And the way the dollar is acting in here, it's another, just another little clue, that we might be encountering something. And then the other one here, there's a few others. I'm not going to go through all of them. I mean, I'm watching the VIX. I'm watching the difference between the 1 month and the 3 month. There's all kind of spreads with the risk, with HYG, with, corporate bonds. There's a lot of things that I don't want to, make a full video about it, just to kind of show you all those charts. But they're I'm watching them as part of my daily routine to see kind of what everything is. An interesting ratio here is the XLY versus XLP, which is, when things are looking good, people obviously are going to buy discretionary. When things might turn or people move to fear, they're going to buy staples. It's a standard kind of market activity in here. And this is the S&P at the top, and that's the ratio XLY, XLP. And then this is the ratio of equal weighted discretionary with equal weighted staples, right? Because you're saying, okay, in the XLY you have a lot of kind of the big dogs, right? Maybe Tesla's in there, Amazon, what have you, and they could have a more influence on that spread. But it's the first time that I'm noticing a pretty big drop in this ratio in kind of both of these, and that's a little bit of an alarm bell as well. We also had quite a bit of selling today in terms of the declines versus advances compared with the other day. So there was a bit more pressure on the market. So that's kind of these are my thoughts. I've pared back quite a bit on my long positions. I am still long, but I'm having my trigger to maybe even open short positions if some of those conditions start to happen, like I've said before. So just to kind of give you my thoughts on kind of what's been going on so far. And now let's go talk a little bit about Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin, again, it climbed above 125. It's been doing fairly well, and it gave us a couple of signals. And buying it, obviously, after it made a big move, it's always risky. But the first signal was back here on a break of this level. The second you know, long was back here on the break of this high, and you know, the market is pulling back. Now it's just doing something that's, you know, fairly normal after an advance. You're going to correct some of it, right? Especially if you've gone pretty strong on good volume, you're going to correct. I don't have a problem with it. I'm always watching the 61.8 retracement of this entire rally. I talked about this yesterday too. Whatever that might fall might be around 118. Ideally, you know, once you break out of a level, you want to stay above that. You don't want to again get back below that one. So that one would be, you know, a pretty important trigger for me, you know, as that we could be experiencing something else. I mean, you're always thinking, what if this is just an ABC? And this was an ABC or a complex, and you're getting a flat correction. If you guys are familiar with those, you get an A, then you get a B, and then you get a big down in C, and then you go, right? So these are called, if you come all the way down here, these are called expanded flats. If you don't come all the way and you just kind of stop at the low, you know, that's just called a running flat, because this wave B high ran above the origin of this wave A. So anyhow, you know, that's kind of what goes through my mind. But again, it's just, you know, a small pullback in here. It's fairly natural. I don't have a problem with it. Let's see how we develop. You can clearly, like, if the market, you know, there's some news or what have you, you know, you can get buying tomorrow. I've seen this where you're basically getting a white candle in there, and then you continue to go like that. So for right now, I'm, you know, I'm still positive on Bitcoin in here, and I'm just kind of, you know, watching it to see how it's gonna behave. Let's take a look here on a bit of a shorter. Yeah, I mean, look, bunch of momentum here, closing toward the top, going toward the top here, a little bit towards the bottom here, a little bit halfway. So he was kind of starting to struggle as he was getting kind of towards this. And it looks like he got as high as 126.5. And now we're kind of coming back. You have a rising 20-day. This kind of coincides with the top of these waves here from September 18th. So those levels, you know, if we're getting all the way down there, they could hold. What I would watch though is, you know, even if we go lower, if we go back up, because I think usually that happens, if you go back up there and then you come back down, you know, then what happens? How much we're going to get below these levels, if we're going to get buying right away, and then if we get back above that level, then I'm getting bullish again, you know, a lot stronger. So that's just kind of how I think about the price action here in Bitcoin. XRP, you know, it's a bit weaker. We talked yesterday about holding above these levels. Now we lost them, and once you do, you know, you always kind of want to play defense. Now the day is not closed. Watch the 61.8 of this advance, and if you go back below that one, you know, Ripple could be once again in a bit of trouble. And then, you know, on Ethereum, it never really gotten above this level, you know, and this is the one that, you know, it's kind of supposed to be the you know, kind of the next trigger. You know, the first one was just on a break of those averages there, climbed a little bit, but, you know, did not get a lot of traction. So, you know, watch the pullback here, and if you get back below these levels, I think Ethereum could be in trouble. So, you know, that's just kind of, in my view, I mean, just fairly basic and simple, you know, price action reading in here, and, you know, I guess I told you all I think about today, and all I have thought about, and, you know, in preparation kind of for this video. You know, I put some comments on Twitter. I put some comments on the new Discord channel. I noticed, you know, there's a lot of people coming in, so, you know, there's starting to kind of pop up a few questions, and if you guys have charts, or questions about, you know, I don't watch the small crypto, so or the small coins, so I'm not going to be able to help with that much. Although, you know, if there are counts, you know, I could try to look at them, but you know, I usually watch Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, like I say in my videos, like I present them here, and then, you know, I watch the equity markets. I watch a bunch of stocks too. So, you know, if I can help in any way, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.